Yeah, kid, if you put the table right under the heat, then you'll live. Here, sakonas nefashis.
What's with you?
I'm gonna be alive. You'll see what I'm saying. There's a certain place and you have sneakers, then you'll be good.
You must have sunglasses.
No problem. You have a head. I don't even have a head. So that's it. I don't have a headache. Hachanis. Yochai knows exactly where to put it. It's like a position.
Where's after your finger?
Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's 3 Prakim Rambam. We are learning Hilchos, She'ela, Upikaden, Prakim, Gimel, Dalid, and Hey. We are beginning with Pede Gimel. Pede Gimel is all about the beginning of the moment of the mashal and the shoyel. How does it end? When does it end? And various tainas that we can have between the lender and the borrower. Pedic Shlishi has 4 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. Says that if a person borrows a cow from his chaver, and the lender did not give it directly to the borrower, but he sent it through his son. He sent it through a shliach. Now you have to understand that everyone comments on the Rambam. It cannot mean what a shliach normally means. Excuse me. In other words, if the lender would have appointed him officially as the shliach, if the borrower would have accepted that it's being sent through the shliach, then this halacha that the Rambam is writing will not apply. Someone decided to bring it. Afilu shilchaloi biyad b'noi or biyad avdoi or biyad shluchai shel shoyel. Even again, shluchai shel shoyel also doesn't mean that the shoyel mamish sent it. It was sent by a middle party without the knowledge of the other. And we learned that the shoyel's responsibility is the highest level. He's even chayiv for an oinus gadol. Even though it was already sent, the level of achrayus of the borrower is only when it enters the domain of the borrower, and therefore harei zapat. However, v'im amalei hashoyel, but if the borrower asks the lender that shilchali biyad bini, oy biyad avdi, oy biyad shluchi, that's a proper ask. Oy biyad bincha, biyad avdecha ha'ivri, dafka, as we'll see, oy biyad shluchacha. So here it was being sent by the ask of the borrower, oy she'amalei hamashal. Or the lender initiated, but the lender ran it by the borrower. And he told him, I'm sending it to you, biyad bincha, biyad avdecha, biyad shluchacha, or biyad bini, biyad avdi ho'ivri, biyad shluchi. And not only did the lender say those words, but the shoyel verbally said, okay. There we say that the moment it entered the hand of the shliach, like a shliach, like Kabbalah, and it's already in the domain of the borrower, and now he'll be chayv even for this oinus god. Now, if you notice that Rambam always spoke about Eved Ivri, what happens if the mashal? Now you have to understand Yad Eved Ki Yad Rabbi. Yad Eved Ki Yad Rabbi means that if the lender sent it with the knowledge of the shoyel, but in the hand of his Eved is his hand. It never left his domain. Therefore, the borrower won't be chayv. Even though the shoyel knew about it, and he told him shalach, umeisa pater, and therefore we say halachically for you to say that the shoyel is already chayv. Halacha beis. If the borrower tells the lender, hakisha b'makel, why don't you hit the animal that you are lending to me with a stick, and it's going to come on its own accord? Now, again, the question is it in the domain of the borrower or not yet? But also, hamashal kei. The din is a nashoyel chayiv ba achet ikonis l'reshusai. Amazing, and therefore avol ameisa baderech, he's going to be pater. In other words, even though the lender fulfilled the request of the borrower, so what? It never left the domain of the lender. In previously, here there's like a shliach like Kabbalah. Shliach like Kabbalah means, the yad of the shliach is the yad of the borrower. Here it's tam. The cow is going on its own. Now, just like we have to clarify halachically, when does the beginning point start? Similarly, that im shilcha b'yad acher, u'meisa kodim shetegel reshus hamashil, the halacha is harei zachayev. Harei zachayev, same concept, because it's still under the achrayus of the borrower. But if it was sent through a shliach with the knowledge of the mashil, alidei acher v'meisa, here we say the opposite. The shliach now is like the shliach of the lender, a shliach like Kabbalah, which means the borrower already gave it back. Pater. Shilch b'yadav diaknani, everything the same. Please send it in the hands of your shliach Evet Kanani, but the Evet Kanani is an extension of the borrower. The borrower never halachically abnegated himself, removed himself, and therefore Meisa Baderech Chayiv Shiyad Evet Kiyad Rabbi Adayim LaYatzas Miyad HaShoyel. And just to mention this idea that Al Pi Chasidus, the Evet Kanani, the Evet Ivri, the Amevriya, Sadikim Beinin Rishoyim, the Evet Kanani being the lowest level, always that way. The lowest level is the highest. There's something unique about an Evet Kanani. The Dafka, the Evet Kanani, the Yad of the Evet is the Yad of the Rabbi. We're not advocating for people to be Avodim Kananim, but for people like us, if we're Zoichem, we do what the Rebbe wants, Dafka. Dafka, by the Evet Kanani, he's more connected. That what Chevrem, let's go back in the last case, that the animal is considered to still be in the domain of the borrower, meaning he's still chayev be'oinasin, even be'oinas gadol, up until when, because it didn't enter the reshus of the lender. That's only if he returned the animal. We learned yesterday, if they have an agreement for a designated amount of time, the lender cannot call it back. The mashal is giving it, the shoyel is giving it back. There is where we say, if it didn't leave the domain of the borrower, he's not chayiv. But if they lent it for a specified amount of time, and the borrower is giving it back after that amount of time, that means it's over. Then if it died on the way, because listen to these words, the moment the time of this transaction of lender-borrower is up, there is no more the din of a she'ela. He's not called someone who's borrowing it, because indeed he may not.
He caused the delay.
No, he didn't cause. It's normal, Kevin. Let's say you lent me your car, Marshall, and you told me you lent me your car, for Purim. Never do that. But if you would have done it, Purim is over. I'm giving it back, but I sent it back in the hands of someone else. Now understand something. Once, if you only lent me your car for Purim, I don't have the right to use it after Purim. I have to give it back. I'm giving it back to you. What am I considered then? If I cannot use it, I'm considered the custodian. Now, halachically, I'm not a shomer chinam. That's interesting. I'm not a shomer chinam because don't forget, you let me use it. I got benefit, even though the right ended, but I have to be like a shomer sachet. I am a shomer sachet. Now, a shomer sachet is chayiv for Geneva and Aveda, but a shomer sachet is not chayiv for Einis Gadol. That's why that if it died, like we said, a shomer sachet, even though he's not getting paid dollars, but the fact that he was given the rights to use it, that is like a payment to him. Well, if it died, we're speaking about an Einis. Then the borrower is going to be potted. This is very important. Halachi Gimel. The tent right now is Zelu Umazet Miami. Just to know. If you're overheating there, come over here. Halachi Gimel. If a person borrowed a cow, like it's but the agreement was half a day borrowed for free, using it for free. The other half a day he's paying. Or it was a 2-day transaction. He's not giving it back in the middle. Or there were 2 cows. One was borrowed, one was rented, and one of them died. In other words, it's all going to be in scenarios where each, that's the machlokes. So the marshal says, Daidi means it's a oinus. A renter is like a shem yisachar. A renter is not chai for the oinus. So the lender says the she'ula's mesa, pay me the money, or biyoyim shehoisa she'ula mesa, or if it was on the same day, half day, during the hours that it was she'ula, it was then that it died. That's what the lender is saying. That's what the renter is saying. The owner. The shomer says, I don't know. He's being honest. I don't know. Or shomer shomer, he knows. Schurames. Biyoyim shehoisa schurames. And the marshal says, I don't know. Or both parties, each one says, Any Yadea. I don't know. Halacha always will be, which means until the owner of the cow is able to bring a raya that it died during the times of She'ula. Azoi does. If he cannot bring a raya, which normally will be the case, then the guy doesn't have to pay. He's being honest. He's saying, I don't know. Or if he knows, even more. Now, okay, if there's no raya, so let's go. So we said, but hold on. There's something else. The shomer, right, has to swear that what? In the case where he's claiming vadai, he has to swear. Even in the case where he says, it's a very interesting shua. He swears that I didn't know. Amazing. Via Potter. Now, here we have vadai. Vadai against vadai. Yishaba hashoimer ala schura shemesa kedarka k'meishaton. Here, first of all, like we just said, he has to swear his time of vadai. I know it died when it was rented. But now we have the concept of Gilgal Shua. V'yigalgal olav. Don't forget, the lender is saying, no, the one that was loaned died. So here, he swears, Shemesa Kadarko. And now he also swears, Shaschuda hi Shemesa. Okay. Halacha Dalo, the final halacha of this chapter. Hashem has a rachmanis. He knew that Rambam knew it's going to be cold in the tent. He made a small pedic.
What should we pay on the following?
No, we're not going to pay that much today. We'll pay Mitzvah Shem tomorrow, not today. Let's go. So there was a transaction. There was a loan of 2 cows. But how does it work? Chatzi hayoim b'she'ela, v'chatzi hayoim b'schivus. Both half and half. And hamashal oimer b'shman hashe'ela meisu shtei. V'hala oimer now he's moed b'mixas. Achas meisa b'zman she'elasu. And the other one I don't know. Here we say, in other words, first of all, there's the rule that we're going to learn in Tanya Benita. Especially when someone is chayv to do a shvua de'oraisa, when a person is chayv to do a shvua de'oraisa, whenever they are unable to make the swear, whenever they are unable to make that shvua, the chayv to pay. That's the big difference. Before Yakid, the shvua of Eini Yodeh is a shvua midrabanan. Doesn't bother me. It's a very rare shvua because he's not chayv to swear at all. Here, he's moida b'mixas. Moida b'mixas is machayv yu shvua. He's moida that one of them died and I'm chayv. The other one, what is the moida b'mixas? I only owe you 50, not 100. He cannot say I only owe you for one because he doesn't know. So that evokes the rule. You have to pay. So he was moida that he's chayiv for one. He has to pay for both. And 2 of them died. So which 2 of them which died? The 2 that were loaned. And you chayiv even for oinus. The shoyel says again, moida b'mixas. I'm moida. I know for sure one of them I taka owe you. I don't know. If he would have known on the second, he would also be able to take a shvua by the mixes, but he doesn't know. Or it was the schura. So here again, we say the rule that because he's saying and this is a shvua deraisa by the mixes. The Rambam writes that the hilchos toyin benit. This is in Perek Dalit. Yisbar din zem the chayoytze boy mikol hatoyanim. Whenever they are unable to swear, and more details of the Ketzad Nishalmin, The Ketzad Mishalmim, just one big rule. I know people, when you hear it enough, you get used to it. This is for the Gabbai, for Danny. That even in cases where you say, you got to pay, there was some power that you have, which is to put whoever is taking money from you wrongfully into a cheder. Can't always, that's the pshat, the Ketzad Mishalmim. Means there is some koyach that you have. Even when you pay, you can connect it to a ban. Like you're cursing this money if you're taking it wrongfully. Ume'ezatam hey mishalmin. So we're going to learn all more in Hilchos Toiminit. Today's second chapter, which is Pedic, the fourth chapter of She'ela and Tikadin. So we began with the din of a borrower, the unique achrayas of the borrower, the exemptions of the borrower. When does the beginning and ending time begin for the borrower? And now we're going back to the Shomer Chinam. I just want to go back. In other words, the Seder of the Rambam was that in Hilchos Chiras, when he began in the first chapter of Dalet Shomrim, the main focus there was for the Soich. But since Soich is one of the four Shomrim, so we learned many of those rules, B'kitzur, in a kololius way in the previous segment. Now, She'ela upikadin, She'ela is what we learned until now, borrowing, and now pikadin. And what we're going to discuss is the opposite of the borrower, which is the Shomer Chinam. Shomer Chinam, like we mentioned when we learned Hilchos Chiras, he's undertaking the highest amount of responsibility for the least amount of benefit. Because not only can he not use it, that's what he's called a custodian. He's just making sure that it's safe. He's not allowed to use it. He's not even getting paid to guard it. So because of that, he has the lowest level of achrayas. Pedic Revi has 9 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. A person is entrusting an article with his fellow, and the fellow is doing it bechinam, no charge, unpaid. The nignaf oy avad. The nignaf oy avad. Not only if an oinus gadol happened, even if something happened, which you can argue, if the custodian would have taken more precautions, maybe it wouldn't have happened. There's some. It's not Shia, just to get it. The Geneva Vavet. Even here, it'll be potter. Here is where the Shomer Chinam is different than the Shomer Sachar. Hadez a nishba v'nish. The Itaka has to take an oath. There's always a biblical oath. Shenamar, as it says, v'gunaf mi beiso ish. V'chuli, or we say v'goymer. The nikrav, I'm saying v'goymer because, I don't know what you have in the Chayenu. Because by Tanakh, just to know the rule, in Tanakh, etc. is v'goymer, klal. In any other area, then you say v'chuli. That's the klal. Okay. So this is a mistake in the version over here, in the gears. So it says in the pasuk, the nikra balabais elhu Elohim tafke, not Elohim, because that means to the basin. And what does he do? The nikra means he gets near, right? Lishvua. Im loy shalach yodim melech Israel. If he did not extend his hand to his colleagues' undertakings, let me just explain this right now. Shlichus yad means that if you gave me your watch for me to be a shomer, I'm allowed to move it because if I feel that it's going to be safer over there. But if I even only lifted it with the kavana, I lifted it, I did a maisa, I am going to use it. I didn't even use it yet, but I already moved it with that intent. That is where you have shlichus. We're going to learn a whole pedic about that. Now the din is that the moment I was sholeach yad, God forbid, I have a din of a gazlan. From that moment on, I'm chayiv even ba'onis, even if I never ended up using it. Now, if I only had this machshava ra, but I didn't touch it, I didn't do shlichus yad. On the other hand, if I didn't even use it yet, but I already moved it, part of the shvua is im loy shalach, then it'll be potter. Now the din is like this. No, he has to say, just to know the shvuos of a shemrim, he's claiming Geneva Vaveda. He has to swear that it was Geneva Vaveda, and it's not in his reshus. That's one of the oaths we'll learn later. There are many oaths a shayman makes, and then on top of that, right, that he was not negligent. I can say Geneva, but you know what? I would say there are some Genevas that are negligence. Some Genevas that are negligent. I can swear that it was stolen from me, but what happens if I put up a big sign outside my house and I says, I have Chaim Yankel's Rolex on my dining room table, and I got enough stole it. I can swear Geneva, but I was Pshia. Because he has to swear that Shaloi Pasha. In what Narvas, Elashama Kedera Hashayim, as we'll give examples. And Shaloi Shalach Bayad, he never did Shlichus Yad, which means he remained a Shomer Chinam. Then he's going to be exempt. The Rambam wants to make it clear, She'im Nignav Achar Shesholach Yad Bapikad. Even though this guy put it back down, doesn't matter. Once I was Shaleach Yad, I am no longer a Shomer. I have a din of a Gazlan, and the Gazlan, until when he returns the item that he stole from the owner, is Chayiv. Is Chayiv even by an Oinus. Chayiv Achar Yusoi. Halacha Beis. That's all the Torah mentions. So we know like Shura, Shvuya, Umesa. He'll be pater. But here again, he's only pater by Oinus Gadol. Shaloi Shalach Yad Bapikadin. Avalam Shalach Yad Bapikadin. Again, he has a din of a Gazlan, even though later, whether he used it, like we mentioned, he lifted it to use it, but he never used it. Makes no difference. Now you're a Gazlan, which means until when the owner gets it back, you are Chayiv even Ba'inus. It's Chayiv Ba'anos. So we said that he has to swear that he guarded it, he watched it, Kederech Hashoyim. And what does that mean? Ketzederech Hashoyim. So the Rambam is going to give a couple of standards. And really, let's begin with what article are you guarding? Are you watching? Yesh Bikaden. It's enough to place it even in the Meishan. You have a gatehouse. You don't even have to place it in your house. It's already considered protected there. For example, beams. But people don't steal beams so quick. It's hard to steal beams. Like today, people do construction. You notice they don't lock it up at night. They put it on the property. There's a less demand, or stones, rocks. However, it has to be put in the chutzner. Like chaviloy shel pishtin hagadolos, large packages of flax. Here again, we're saying that chatzir is enough, maspik. You don't have to put it in the house. The yesh bikadon only babayis. If it's a simla, if it's a talis, if you leave someone else's simla or talis in your chatzir, you didn't do it properly. It's not called a good shmira. That's already called a pshia. The yesh bikadon shederach shemirasai. To put it in a teva. Not enough in your house. It has to be in a chest in your house, or in a migdo, in a cabinet, and it has to be a locked cabinet. Like big day meshi, silk garments, clay zahav, clay kesef, v'chayotze bahen. Halacha gimel, if he did not leave it in a place where he should have, and now with nignav mishama yavad. What did we learn, guys, in Osanol Cheschiros? The big klal, that chilasei b'pshia. Even if it's soifay ba'onis, dinoi kipshia, afilu nenasham. For example, nafla the lake of Anisif Kalabais, and the house burnt down. That means even if you would have put it in the migdol that's locked, it would have gotten burnt anyway. Doesn't matter. You did not look after it properly. Hareza poisheya, and now v'chayiv l'shalom. Furthermore, afal pi sheniach hapikaden im shaloi. No, it's the guy is claiming. You're kidding. You asked me to watch over your silk kapata. I put it with my silk kapata. I put it in the same place. So if it was good enough for me, I'm arguing it's good enough for you. No, it's not. I have the right with my things to be more negligent. It's mine. I shouldn't, but I have that right. If I agree to be your shomer, there is a minimum that I'm mechuyev to do. Only im roy l'shmira pater, v'imen amakim roy l'shmira chayev. And as the Rambam says, I have the halachic right to be careless with my own property. Is it ideal? No. But I have that right. B'shaloi, hu rashoy. Rashoy means to be careless, to be less responsible. But I have no right, the ein rashoy, to be less responsible than the standard, than the norm. B'shalachedim. Halacha daled. Now let's go to other items that need even a higher level of shemira, which is ksafim and dinarim. Silver coins, golden coins. Ein lahem shmira elo sheyitmenein bakarka. The way to watch it, the way to guard it is only to bury it. Today they say in English to put it under the mattress, but that's not a good halacha. You have to bury it in the ground and not stam on the ground. You have to have at least one tefach of afar on top of it. Oi, if you want to bury it in a wall, people, when they're lazy, where do they bury it in the wall? They bury it more or less in the height of their hands, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. The place that's the most difficult to hide, the place where Ganavim look the last, if they look at all, is Tefach Hasamach Lekarka or the Tefach Hasamach L'Shmei Kaira. The lowest Tefach or the highest Tefach. It's probably the most inconvenient to put it there, which is why most people don't. So Ganavim don't even bother. That's why it's the safest there. Because furthermore, you have a good chest, but it's not good enough for money. But you decided that you have a corner in your house that no one will even know it's there. I'm like, no. Says that I'm mixas hamevinim. Shehu adin l'chol davar. Shem if maso oichal. That means if it's something that's light, which means it's not difficult for you to schlep to bury, and it doesn't get ruined when it's in the moist ground. He gives examples, not only coins, but because halacha daled was about coins, minted coins. What about l'shoyna shel kesef, slabs of silver? The ain't sarachloimed if it's even more expensive, slabs of gold or avanim toivois that they paskin she'elam shmira ela bakarka ulesadat yinoit. Halacha. Hamafkadeis l'chaverik sofim erev Shabbos, and when bein hashmoshes. So what are you saying? The guy accepted he has to bury it. Then no, then not. En chayv l'troyach v'likbar oisten ad motzoi Shabbos. But
Ben Hashmoshes within the 18 minutes.
That's what Yakir is pointing out. Hold on, bein hashmoshes b'chlal we taking Shabbos. I think it means before Shabbos. The miracle. I was driving and I got there right before Lich Bench. God forbid. But if after Shabbos comes and goes, the guy feels if it was good enough for Shabbos, if it was good enough to hide it in my drawer under that, I can leave it there. No, after Shabbos, you have to bury it. And then then for a commoner, you're chayiv to do it even before Havdalah, right? Matzah Shabbos. But the im Talmud Chachavu ain't a chayiv which is a gavaldik thing.
If it was stolen on Shabbos, he won't be chayav.
He won't be chayiv. If it was stolen after Shabbos, so by a commoner we say, how much time would it take you? I have to say Baruch HaMavdil and bury. Talmud Chacham will only touch muksa after a certain level. After he does Havdalah and a Kaishal Yain. I want to know that if I'm not mistaken, the Rebbe was very makbid on this. That even that until Havdalah, if I'm not mistaken, in 770, they would never put the mic, even after they davened might have Atachin Antonu. I think I heard it was from the Rebbe said that. Well, that is what his father did. That's these dinim over here. Al Pidin, the only thing that you need to make Havdalah for, B'koi Shal Yayin, if you are Mavdal B'peh, is for eating and drinking. Which after you said Baruch HaMavdal or Atachin Antonu, I drive home. Some people don't do that. You know, a person who doesn't do any malach until after Havdalah B'koi, so then you give him that time. Halacha vav. So like this, guys, you asked your fellow, can you please bring my money to my house? You understand? So here, the way to guard it is not to bury it in the ground. Yakira, he has a very good picture, Keva. In other words, I was asked to be a shoyman, meaning to bring it somewhere. So what is the shmira on money when you're taking it on your person? It doesn't have to be to your house. If I'm transporting money, so the standard level of shmira, two things. It has to be bound. In other words, it has to be bound in a packet. You can't carry like coins in your pocket. You have to put all of the coins in one kerchief. It should be tied together and in your hand.
It's just very scary society, Rambam.
No, today the same thing. Kevin had that picture. No, it's called a money belt. Like shurim al bitnai, you tie it on your belly. That's not much the money belt.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's a scary society.
What's a scary society that people
today you don't have to protect yourself.
Well, no, because today most people are cashless. Your money is in your account. Today they steal your credit card.
You have insurance.
Then you have insurance. Or then you'll find out. You have insurance until when you need it. Then you pay. You can get pana, but when you may have a money belt, even a money belt. The Brazilians are good. They know how to pickpocket. You won't even feel it. You have to put a connected pana. Not Achi agila beisai, and then you have to bury it until the guy picks it up. Like we mentioned, and so this guy had a partition made out of reeds, a partition made out of reeds. And he somehow stuck it in that mechitza, and it got stolen from over there. And for Geneva, we mentioned before, it was in the Tefach Hasamach Lakarka. But the Rambam we spoke before about putting it in a wall made out of stone. What's the mile of a stone wall? That a Gadif, even if he'll check in the wall, he's not going to check all the way in the bottom, all the way in the top. But there's something else. What happens if a fire will break out? So a stone wall, like the earth, will protect it from fire. A reed wall is a flimsy wall. So even though it's good enough for Geneva, but Eina Shmira Koroi Le'iyon Ha'esh. Now what happened, guys, was not that it burned. The nakuda here is that even at the end, if it was Nignava, Shemechina was spotted. But we said Chilasi B'Pshia. You should never put money in a place where it's not fireproof. And there we say, you're chayev.
Even though there was no fire.
Even though there was no fire, that's very good. That's why we're learning together. Halach is zayin. If you're cold, do push-ups, do squats. My toes are frozen. Halach is zayin. If a person entrusted with his fellow, whether it is utensils or money, and now the owner tells the shomer tenli pikdoini. I'm sure this happens often. And he doesn't say you never gave it to me. He says the emes. He says I don't remember where I put it. Welcome to the 50s. Imagine by the 60s. You don't know. I buried the money. I did a karo. I don't remember where I buried it. So he says, he's not saying, I'm not going to give it back to you. He says, give me time to look for it. The din is, you are poisheya. You know what? If you're going senile, write it down. You should have, and you have to pay right away. Now, don't forget, you'll find it. Say that. I have someone else's $1,000. I have to out of pocket him the $1,000, and then the money, of course, that I'll find, I'll compensate myself. But you're chayv right away to give it back. Halacha ches. Kol hamafked etzel balabayis. Ben kelim ben ma'ois. Do you know if I am entrusting a shomer who's married, I already agreed for that guy's wife also to be the shemeret. Al das ishto yobanav u'benoisav u'bnei beis hagdoilim hu mafked. Hagdoilim means that I am not expecting for him to have his minor son watch it. That's not right for him to do. But he has the full right to give it over to his wife. I knew that. But if the shomer didn't hand it over to his wife or to his adult kids, that or if he had another relative, but that other relative doesn't live in the house, is not soymech on the shulchan. That if a shomer gave it over his son to another shomer, that in itself is called pesheya. And guys, we learned a lot about this in Hilchas Chidus, right? About going up. Remember, you went up, you went down. The Rambam is not going to repeat all those details. As we learned in Hilchas Chidus, it was even in the first chapter. These rules. Point is that the key of halacha ches is that I undertook shmira. If you gave it to me, I'm married. I have all the right to ask my wife to be the shemeres, and you knew that. She has to watch it the way I have to watch it. But it's not cool that I gave it over to someone else. And he gave it to his mother. And she hid it, right? Geld. And we learned hiding it is not enough by money. You have to bury it. And it got stolen. Ooh, so if, now this is a gavaldik. You know what the din here is? So normally we learn, no, if someone gives me money, I have to bury it. If I don't bury it, that's called chilas b'pshia. I'm going to be chayiv. Here the Chachamim found up a way out. Amru Chachamim, ein Hashem chayiv l'shalom. Why? Listen to this. Couple of rules together. Number one, we learned he gave it to his mother. And the owner cannot have kindness that he gave it to his mother, as we learned in Allah Ches, Shekola Mafkid al Das Banav Ubnei Beisei Mafkid. Now, Banav Ubnei Beisei includes the mother. She was living in his house. Not such a good. Okay, good.
Go on.
Now, one second. The mother, we're going to see in a moment. The mother is not chayv to pay. We'll see in a moment. When he gave it to his mother, or when a man gives it to his wife, he doesn't have to tell her this is a pikad. You don't have to do that. When I give over something to my mother, if I would tell my mother, this is not mine, I'm watching it for someone else. Or if I don't tell my mother it's someone else's, when do you think your mother is going to guard it more? Your mother cares a lot more about you. The wife, I don't know, that I'm smart. Your mother cares more about you than anyone else in the world. So him not telling his mom that this is someone else's, he didn't do anything wrong, because she's going to guard it even more. Now, 1 second. He did not do anything wrong by not telling his mom it's not his, because his mother is going to watch it better. Now, don't forget, we're learning a detail. We're saying by money, you have to bury it. Now, the mother's not chayiv. Why is the mother not chayiv? Because if the mother would have known that this is someone else's, she would have to be chayiv to bury it. She never knew that. And even though the halacha says that money you have to bury, not everyone buries money. She hid it. Very good. Now, 1 second. Let's go. Couple of things still have to happen. Firstly, you have to swear that you gave over that money to your mother. And you know what not? Don't forget, money is money, right? You give me $100 and I have my own $100. It has to be that your $100 bill I gave over to my mother.
What's the word arts money?
Because if I didn't give over my money, the same money, don't forget, it's not a loan. When you give me money for a loan, the money is mine and I owe you that amount. If you're asking me to be a shayman on your money, the money is not mine. Even though people don't think that way. Many people think if it's $100 bill, I'll give it back to you. But it's not true, because if your $100 bill is in my pocket and I gave over to my mother another $100 bill, that $100 bill is mine. If that was stolen, mine was stolen. Your money is in my pocket, I'm chayiv to pay. But first of all, it has to be that the money that was given over as a pikadon was stolen. Number two, the mother has to swear.
I know what you're saying. But
1 second, if the mother would have left it on the dining room table, the mother would be chayiv. You see, here's another thing. The mother hid it. That's why they exempted her. The only thing is she didn't bury it, but she hid it. She has to swear sheichbi'aisam, and after she hid it, it was swollen. And then it will be patru shneim. Not hefker at all. Because in other words, the Rambam is just adding a layer that when we said that money has to be. Let me ask you a question. If someone gives you money, do you bury it? First of all, I don't know if you can apply it, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Hiding it, you have to. Burying it is only if you knew. Okay, and final halacha.
I think that way.
Yes.
They're taking it easy on him because he's already living with his mom. To make things more problematic, they're just letting him go easy. Sorry.
You know what? It could be. You never know. Keep it aims. The other thing is, Kevan, is that there was no other alternative then. Everyone's mother lived. Today, you have what's it called? Assisted living. All right, halacha 9. Safta basalon. Final halacha mikana tolami. Shashoy mershum asera pikadon ishto bnei beisoy. Vehoidiam shu pikadon. Ooh. Oh no! Now mikana tolami means part of the heted. Part of the heted is because he never let his mother know it was a pikadon, which means he was not chayiv to do so. But what happens if he did that? If he would have left it? As we learned in this chapter, they are chayiv to pay. They meaning, guys, the wife, the child, the mother. They are chayiv to pay to the owner, and the balabais is going to be pater. Why is the balabais pater? Because we said if I accept to be a shoyman by default, if I'm a married man, if I'm a man with children, if I'm a man with parents, and they live with me, I am allowed to give it to them. I did nothing wrong. They did it wrong, so they have to pay. Bottom line is, if you take someone's article to be shoymed, it sounds like you are allowed to give it to them. You're not to tell them that it's a pikadon, and then you'll be less on the hook. He entrusted a kshus as a hops. Hops means that which they used to make beer out of. I mean, they used to make beers out of dates and figs. Hops, like nowadays, it's like a use for beer. Now, the thing is that the shoymed had his own hops. So now I have my hops and your hops. And I, the shoymed, told my shamish, mizu hakishus, from my hops, put in the beer. What did the shamish do by mistake? That the shamish is also potted. The shamish is potted. Why? Because even though I told the shamish, take it from this pile, that's not clear enough to the shamish. The shamish did not know, Yakir, that one of them is not mine. He thought I'm telling him, take from this one because it's a better flavor. I didn't tell him from this yeah and from that not. And therefore, the Dima Shumara Makin, Veina Makwid also. Gewaldig. The Chaim Balabai spotted because the Balabai says, I told him he's a Hashlei. Now, 1 second. Epis compensation he has to make because he used up the guy's hops. The only thing is that sometimes, like, how much are the hops worth? How much benefit did he have? Sometimes it's a bad investment. Sometimes the hana'ah is less than the worth. You do have to pay mashenehena. But if mashenehena, if the hops only added $5 into the value of the beer, and the hops themselves were worth 10, I only have to pay 5. Which means I had zero hana'ah, I'm going to be completely exempt. However, I asked the Rambam wrote an halacha ches. All of this is based on the ma'aseh of the guy who gave money to his mother. But he asked to swear that this is what happened. Beautiful. And today's third chapter, now we will be learning about Shia and also scenarios where the shoymed lacked information, and that will have an effect on how we will judge whether he's going to be chayiv or pater. Perek Hamishi has 7 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. Says that if someone was entrusted to watch over money that belongs to poor, now it's very important to understand, we're not speaking about aniyim of this city. Aniyim. It belongs to aniyim, but there is no person that can claim that money. Not even a group of aniyim of the city. That's going to be the key. Money that was raised for pidyon shavuyim. And what's the geshen? Upasha bohem v'nignevu. Now, guys, we're speaking about a shomer chinam. After the Rambam made it clear that geneva v'aveda is pater, we also say pshia is chayiv. Whether pshia from the beginning until the end, or as we learned in the previous chapter, tchilasi b'pshia is oichet chayiv. There was pshia. Here, there's a unique din that the shomer chinam is pater. Why? Because since the Torah says lishmoir, when is he chayiv? When he's watching something. In other words, he's watching something that belongs to a owner or to a group of people that can claim it. Meaning, this concept, no one can claim that money. No one. Another scenario. Ganovim are coming to hold up this shomer. And what did he do is he had his money in his right pocket. He had these tzedakah funds in his left pocket. So he saved himself with the mammon that was raised for pidyon shavuyim. Now, we're going to learn later, I have the right sometimes, especially to protect myself from damage with someone else's money, but I'm chayiv to pay. Here, you won't be chayiv to pay. Here's another logic, because I use the money exactly what it was raised for. This is great. That there's taken no tovim at all. Not no specific. There isn't even a location, a locality. It was not raised for the aniyim of the city. It was not raised for certain types of shavuim. Shavuim elu, or ulishvuim elu. So then it's kotzutz. Kotzutz means it's set aside for them. Now there's mamash yesh l'toivim. Now, even though it's not raised for one ani, doesn't matter. If it's raised for the aniyim of Los Angeles, they can all get together and they can demand the money. Yishalom and pasha, or like the din of a shomer chinam, even if he's not going to pay, he's never patim l'klum. There's a chiyuv midoraisa for him to take it off. Or yeshava im pasha kedera kol hashoimrim halacha beis amav kedetzel chaverim mamen kelim chashuvim. Oh, ubo olav ganovim, and this guy went ahead and he says, ganovim, I have exactly what you want. Take what you want. Leave me alone. What did he give him? He gave him this kelim chashuvim. The nose will not become lahatzel like this. I want to know, why did the Ganovim break into Reuven's house? Reuven was a shomer like this. If Reuven doesn't have these types of articles, now he's being a shomer for someone else. Reuven can argue, they only came to me because of this. So the first case is not that way. Reuven also was a wealthy guy. Then he's chayiv. Because we say that the Ganovim came to Reuven because Reuven was a balabatish guy. Shechaskasai, because of the possessions of the shomer bo haganov. Lovers, then what did he do? Okay, he went ahead and the Ganovim went into his house. They were coming for Reuven stuff, but Reuven happened to be watching Shimon stuff, so he saved his own stuff by using someone else's money. You have to pay. The nimtza zehi tzalatz for that you have to pay. But that's the word. The imeino amud. If he's not known to have these types of articles, fakir, he doesn't have. He's not yet a wealthy guy. So halacha says cheskasoi shalebo ella l'shema hapikadon. They came for the article. It's amazing. And you know what we say? We say that he's spotted because he did not save himself. The guys, I want to make one thing clear. We're speaking about a shomer chinam. Don't forget, this is the hemshuk to the previous chapter, because a shomer sachar is chai for gneva v'aveda. Shomer chinam is pater for gneva v'aveda. The Rambam is saying, when is a shomer chinam pater for gneva v'aveda? If he did not use someone else's money to save himself. If he used someone else's money, even the shomer chinam is going to be chayiv. That's the context over here. Halacha 3. Hamav kedetz chaveri kelim apedes ubo ganovim uganovim b'fanov. Normally, the definition of a ganav is that he's hiding. Right. He's hiding from the oilam, but he stole it in front of this shomer. Now, I guess so. We say like this: is that shia? A shomer chinam is not chayiv to pay other people to help him protect it, because if he's not getting paid, he's not chayiv to pay. But you know what? Many times you can get people to help you without pay. How? Shout. So for free. Here we say, and just speak out the other side. But if the only way he would have gotten people to help him is by offering money, since he's a shomer chinam, he's not chayiv to do it.
Rabbi, why are you calling him a ganav?
Because we learned this when we learned Geneva. Geneva means even in front of, he's hiding from everyone else other than the balabais. Halacha dalet. Shnaim shevchidu eitzel echad. Here we go. 2 people asked one person to be a shomer. What happened was, listen to these details. Kavaldik. One guy gave 100, one guy gave 200. Now they're coming to pick up the money. Each one is claiming, Anihu shefkanati amosai. And the shomer says, Eini yoideya. We had a little bit of that in the previous chapter. And you should know that a shomer many times does not get to say Eini yoideya. Like it's his fault. He should have written down who gave him 200, who gave him 100. And therefore, Yishavak echad, kol echad mehem shitken mosayim, kidin kol nishba b'noitel, v'yitein mosayim lezeh, mosayim lezeh. You were shomer.
Why not have each pay 100 and have the other guys take an oath?
Because the shomer is called negligent. The shomer chinam is called posheya. The yafsid me'ami beis sheyo posheya sheyo posha. He should have written it down. 1 second. He's only posheya kevan because each one gave it to him in a different pouch. He should have written down the name on the pouch. What happens if these 2 people, if they gave it to him all bound together, and now they come and collect it? Here, Kevin, exactly what you said. Here, they trusted each other. If they trusted each other when they gave it to him, he was not chayiv to write their names down. Now, Noisin Meyalazeh, Umeyalazeh. The guy's in possession of 300. He doesn't even give him the 300. I love the expression.
Why doesn't he give it to the Beis Din, the third money?
Because we don't trust the Beis Din. Finally, we're getting seichel. Don't trust the Beis Din.
What about, isn't there a called Alan Var sometimes in these situations?
Not over here. Here we're saying no. The Beis Din wants them to make the Torah wants them to make a compromise. They have to know they'll never get it back. Either or until when they make an agreement. Why? Because the shomer tells them, hold on, I had to write your names down. You gave it to me in the same pouch. You trusted each other. And the same concept, not by money, but by
Rabbi,
yes.
I'm sorry, very quickly. Let's say he didn't write it down, but he said, I know this was the guy that gave me 200. This guy's, is that sufficient? If he says
100%, sure. Sure. But it's separate. And now when they come to pick it up, everyone is saying, Anihu Bala Gadol. Same thing. They have to swear. Now, 1 second, he only has one Gadol. So he gives the Gadol to one. And Utemeha Gadol L'Sheni. Now, the Rambam interesting doesn't write who gets the Gadol, who gets the Demei HaGadol. That Mistama the Shomer gets the pick. And the Yishar Loi HaKotan, at least he gets to keep the cut to compensate, but he's still going to lose money. But if these two utensils came in one box, here, and he gets to keep the Gadol, but he has to pay from the Gadol is worth $200. So if he has where to take the $100 from. And again, the words ad lo oilam. Another case. But again, l'shayim l'shneim guys means just to know they have to make a shvua ke'eng doiraisa. And why is he chayv? Shemechini was chayv am pshia. The Rambam is writing this is called pshia. That's called pshia. Chen shnayim shevkidu shtei behemes etzel royam umeisa achas mehem. The eni yedei shel mi hoisa. It's your fault. Yishalom l'shneim. But that's when they gave it in your hand. What happens if two people put it in your herd? They never gave it in your hand. But the imif kidu be'evre shalom medatoy. You understand? When they gave it, they notified you later. They notified you, but you never saw it. And one animal died. You're not chayiv. You bring the now here, Danny. That's the kasha that you're asking. Like, why here does he put it beineim? You get it? So he has to, because he has to give back the one. Yeah. The tia monachas. The din is, first of all, you watchmen, don't mix them with your cows, with your paydois. Don't mix it with your produce. Why should you not mix it with your produce? Let me tell you what the Rambam is going into. Guys, there's a certain amount of spoilage because you're living in Miami or because of rodents that happens to produce. We'll see the norm. But ideally, if I have my storage of my tvua and you're asking me to guard your tvua, it's better not to mix them because like this, I give you back what you gave. And I know that you're going to get 1% less because of the spoilage. I know for sure that percent was spoiled from yours. And I'm not going to end up using, let's say if mine is spoiled more than yours, I'll average it out. I'm going to benefit wrongfully. So don't mix. If over the Eidvan, then you do, there is a standard. Yechashiv kamo hoise peroisa. The kamo haya pikodim, how much did I own before? How much did you give me? And the yira kamo chaser hakoil. What's the sum total of the spoilage? And v'yechashiv chesed anapikodim yitla yachash yishava. And as the Rambam is going to write many details in this chapter. Notice here there's no other option. This topic mehem v'liyad kam in this topic. If the shomer made use, he already made use. Because don't forget, guys, if I mixed your tfuah with my tfuah, I'm allowed to take my tfuah. So I know that there's a certain percent that's the norm. I don't even know how much I took. Now I don't even know how much I took from my own. So here, what we have to do is, we have to first make a calculation based on the normal based on the normal amount of spoilage here. The Rambam goes into it. Lechitin, look into these details. Lechitin or lo'oidus kolot. Lo'oidus kolot means rice that's taken out of the shell, right? Shelled. I'm forget. They are in their shells. Arbas kabin umechza l'chol kod. L'so'oidim u'l'toichan, barley and millet, 9 kaf for every kod. Kusmin, buckwheat, zera pishtan, while they are in their stalks, and to rice that's einoi koluf, unshelled. Sholish in l'chol kod. Uchamida hazois is l'chol shana v'shana. You have to start making estimations. So don't do it, but if you did it, you can make these estimations. Now, another detail, that this is the shear of spoilage. That is when you received it during the times of the Goyden. Guys, the times of the Goyden, just to know, the Goyden happens summer. Summer is when things are dry. And you're giving it back when it's dry. And you're giving it back during winter. You know what happens during winter? Even though there's spoilage, there's something else. Whatever is swelled because of the humidity. So that compensates. You have to give back all of the right amount because even if there's this percent of spoilage, there is that amount of it being swelled. You're giving back the weight, you're giving back the volume. You have to give exactly the same weight. Same when it comes to wine, there's something else by wine. When I put wine in my barrels, your wine in my barrel, there's a certain amount of absorption that happens in the barrels. So therefore, when I give back, it can be missing how much? A shtus, imagine a 6, that's a lot. 3 lug of shemen to every 100 loik. But the 3 lug of oil, it's not from absorption. It's half absorption and half shemarim. Why is that important? Because if the oil that I was asked to watch over was mizukah, there's no shemarim. Then all you get to give back less is the leg and a half of absorption. Another detail: if the kegs were already used many times, they won't absorb; they're full. And therefore, again, if I didn't mix it, there's nothing to talk about. I give you back what you gave me. The moment I mix it with my produce, you have to know how to make these estimations. Produce that's never measured. You gave me produce I never measured. And I mixed it with my potatoes that were also not measured. Now I'm called a presheya. Now we got a problem. Now I don't even know what to do. And so if the Baal HaPekadon says kach v'kach and the Shomer says I don't know, you know what happens? Yishalom b'loy shvua. Yishalom b'loy shvua. That means the owner doesn't even have to swear. Why? Because since chiyav atzmi b'tashlumin, he's saying I'm a Shomer. We learned this today in the first chapter in the Perek Gimel. Guys, here we have clearly when the Rambam writes his Rabbi Zajac, he writes, who is the Rambam's Rebbe? Rabbi Yosef HaLevi. Just remember, Rabbi Yosef HaLevi is who we refer to as the Rimigash. The rabbi of Rabbi Yosef HaLevi is the Rif. It's interesting why the Rambam put it here. Many times Rabbi Zajac. Rabbi Zajac means Rimigash and the Rif. And the Rebbe of his Rebbe. And the owners say, they can even get that without a shvua. With one nuance, with one knage, that they are claiming something that it's shaykh for them to have owned, to have given to you to guard. They are amudim boy. But if this guy was a shlepper, so to say, financially, and he's claiming, I gave you $1 million, there's a limit. We don't believe it. Even here, we already mentioned this. Now, what's the rationale? So the Rambam says, consider the following. The Shomer says, I just don't know how much. That becomes a mighty mixes. He's explaining how this works, which means he's theoretically chayiv shvua, but he can't swear because he doesn't know how much was not there. And that's the rule. Whenever you chayiv shvua midiraisa and you can swear, you chayiv to pay, and therefore the other guy doesn't have to swear. Gabaldik halacha zayin. Base of a v'niach leisak tzarur. So the custodian, the father, had a bag that was sealed, and the father passed away, or hifkidoi eitzel chaveroi, and by the chaver. In other words, the heir Yakir entrusted it to someone else, and the other person was pasha. Hamaf kedoimer. Maybe they were Margolius. Maybe. Mace of the owner. In other words, both parties don't know. Reuven gave Shimon something. Reuven passed away, sacked clothes, and Shimon gave it to someone else. So the mafkid says, I don't know what was there. Maybe there were pearls. The shomer says, maybe not. I don't know how much chayv to pay. Maybe there was only a schuchis, much cheaper. Shuras hadin sha'ani yomi b'tayna zu says the Rambam sheyeshava hashomer b'takonas chachamim she'ena b'reshusai, which is the oath that every shomer has to make. V'yichlo b'shu, because the other tzad doesn't have vaday. The other tzad also doesn't know. V'yichlo b'shu v'asei she'ena yidei b'vaday shoy b'yosel al zeh shokach. And he should at least pay ma sheyoyde boy. V'chein chol chayoytze boy. Says that Rambam Maisa be'echot shifkat tzak.
What does that actually mean, though? I'm not understanding how much.
You're understanding, Danny.
If you don't know what's in it, what do you pay?
In the case where he's saying there was something, well, if he says it was maybe sand, okay, there has to be something. Whatever he's claiming, what it could have been, that's the minimum he has to pay. A closed box, so a closed sack. Upasha boy. You're chayv. Asher mechina was chayv for pshia. No, there was gold, there was jewelry, there were pearls. Shemer says, any of them. Shemer Sigin. Maybe it was choil. Because here the mafkid, when he knows he's mechayiv the other guy on Moedim mixes. He cannot take a Moedim mixes because he doesn't know how much he's denying. So then Yishav Abal Pikodim V'Yitol, who should eat Davar Shu Amid Boy, Oisha Omelaf Keretzloi, the Lomanish Bakan Bal Pikodim, unlike before, because Lafisha Ein Hashem Mechoyev Shua. Lafisha Ein Hashvua. In other words, if the Shomer, guys, remember, whenever the Shomer is Chayiv Shua, what's the din? If you have to swear and you can't, like Bamaydam makes us, then you have to pay. Here he's not Chayiv. Why? Because even if you would have been Moida, bodily Shoyim Ola Sigin, and the Mafkid says Margoli Yasoya, Hashoim and Nishma only has his v'niftar. Why? It's gavaldik. I hop over here. Moedi b'mixas means I gave you 100, your moedi you owe me 50. I gave you 100 pounds of apples, and your moedi that you own 50 pounds of apples. Here it's gold and sand. Ta'anu b'chitim v'hoide b'so'edim. It's called a kaifer hakel. Kaifer hakel is spotted. Kimishu ta'anu chitim v'so'edim. So since the shomer doesn't have to swear, now it goes on the other side. And Hilchas Toim Benit and Pei Gimel Yisba'aru Ikri Hadvarim. Givaldi, I have to run.